Hey guys, before we dive into the podcast, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of our new sponsors, Blade Runner Systems. They have a all new Evolve line. They are offering up one of their Evolve Nomad blades for the winner of our men's absolute division. Go ahead and check out our Instagram post about the knife. It looks amazing, and I can't wait to be able to give it away to our absolute division men's winner on the October 26th Flow Sub Only 7. Go ahead and check bladerunnerssystems.com to check those guys out, and go on their Instagram and give them a follow. Thanks, guys, and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Flow Sub Only podcast. I'm here with my co-host Ben Moore. How you doing, Ben?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on again. This is great.
Thank you, man. We've got a fun one for you guys today. We've been going back and forth for the past 4 or 5 days, and we have established a top 5 list of Flow Sub Only matches of all time for each of us. So I formulated my top 5 matches. Ben has as well. We do not know what the other person has on their list, but we're going to break them down one by one, and starting at number 5. So Ben, I'm going to have you lead us off. What's your number 5 on the list?
I'm going to have to say that I have these matches not in a, like, this is the third best match thing. I sort of took my 5 favorite matches.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go down the line of, I guess, generally what I think might be top 5, but like I top 5 for me notably.
And for the listeners too, if you check out our YouTube channel, Flow Sub Only on YouTube or at Flow Sub Only, there's, I believe, 125 to 130 matches on there. So if you didn't make the top 5, it does not mean your list is good, and it or your match was not good. This was tough to pick these, and there may be some bias based on excitement. It's not necessarily, just because it was a championship match or a high level match. That really didn't necessarily play into all the factors. And I got a couple honorable mentions to throw in at the end too if we have time. This top 5 list by any means is not set in stone. And after we release this episode, I definitely want to put some polls out there for to fans and hear some of their thoughts on some of their favorite matches so far too.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, like, my top 5 is valued at how I value them, and obviously you might value different criteria for your top 5. So, and it sounds like you do, given the fact that I think you may have one match that might overlap, but at the same time, like, having 5 different matches together is kind of cool. Like, my criteria is more, I want action, dynamic, technical, like entertaining the whole time.
Yes.
Like, we can easily just get a super quick match of like, oh, that heel hook was in 3 seconds. Like, yes, that was
right.
by definition the fastest submission. So if submissions are the criteria, then yes, that would be the top match ever, technically.
Right. Yeah, I will say there have been some sub 1 minute flash submissions. Like Max Greenberg had a amazing buggy choke that comes to mind at one of the undergrounds. Amazing submission. He hit it quick, but I didn't use that as my criteria for top 5 matches. I want to see a relatively lengthy match with a lot of technical jiu-jitsu and some back and forth, so that kind of eliminated a few like dominant performances. Like your teammate Austin Miller's match comes to mind, where he dominated his opponent. There was minutes and minutes spent in the mount position where he was just slowly working through, attacking arms and things like that. So while the performance was amazing, it was one-sided enough to the point where I didn't list it as my top 5 exciting matches. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, my matches, you can say, aren't one-sided. Like, a lot of them are they go back and forth, very technical. You can watch it the whole time. Like it's a good example of a good match, overall in this segment of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So
Anyway,
what's first on your list?
first on my list right now has to be Nikolai versus Mike Sear.
Nice.
I think that's a great match because it was in a open tournament. It was the semifinals. I think Mike Sear was facing Pockets after this for the finals, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nikolai and Sear, shout out to both of them. Really good competitors, both brown belts right now. Similar styles of their jiu-jitsu, both coming from a brawling sort of wrestling perspective. And their match was, had highlights on the feet, on the ground. You can tell what's going on with, each competitor trying to impose his will, and then, sweep happens. So like it goes back and forth quite a bit the whole time. But Sear wins in overtime. And so definitely that shows you that during the match time, no one could effectively submit each other. There was passes, there was, near miss sweeps, things like that. Like I'm just sort of going over the match right now, but yeah, it's a dynamic match. I think it's similar. It's like a bigger version of like your Rutolo versus bigger as in like the people are bigger. Rutolo versus Tackett, where it's just like action the whole time.
Yeah.
Mike's probably got maybe 30 pounds on Nikolai. I would say maybe 40.
Yeah.
I'm
I'd
a
say
bad judge in
probably.
weight, so
Yeah, I'd say probably 40.
okay. Yeah, I know how much I weigh. I don't know how much anybody else weighs in this world.
um, I'm remembering that match as well, and I felt like as I was watching it that Nikolai, at some point fairly deep into the match, had an opportunity to finish Sear. He was, if I remember correctly, I did not watch this match recently, so I'm
He
kind
had
of
the
going from
back, and then
memory.
the
But
time
yeah,
went off.
Sear had like Turtle, and Nikolai was on the back, and
Yep. And
Sear
then
looked fairly tired. It was a long match, and Nikolai's pace is a lot to keep up with.
yeah, he's relentless.
Yeah.
Sear was playing guard for probably a couple minutes before Nikolai almost passed. Went to Turtle, took the back. And you can tell like things are progressing in the way that might go in Nikolai's favor. And then the time limit, the buzzer happened, and so then they went to overtime, and that's sort of when Sear wins in overtime there. So could
Mm,
have been an interesting match if it was a 10-minute match.
yes. Yeah, I feel like 10 minutes would have been potentially enough for Nikolai to wear him down further, but you never know. I mean, that's a tough call.
That's a
So
tough call.
that actually flows perfectly into my number 5 on the list. My number 5 on that list was actually the following match to that, which was Michael Sear against Mark Jack from the Academy. So that was the
Pockets.
semifinal match that you mentioned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a great watch for people that enjoy stand up because they did spend a significant amount of time on the feet.
Mm-hmm.
Sear has some pretty serious wrestling credentials, and you could sort of see some attempts, just some entries or partial entries into takedowns, and Sear is very very fast for a man of that size.
Oh yeah, Mark is bigger than I'd say. Mark is bigger than like in between Nikolai and Sear in a
I think
size
so too.
bracket.
Yeah. So there was a lot of grindy stand up. A lot of collar ties and entries into Russian ties and
Mm.
attempted foot sweeps and some shots and things like that. Ultimately, that one, Mark Jack was victorious, winning the absolute title for that open via leg lock. So
I think it's a good match that shows you. I think Sear was better at wrestling, but Mark is better at I think brawling and
yes,
thinking on his feet very quickly and adapting. And I think that is definitely a showcase of how good Jay Jack is as a coach as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, not that Brooks, Mike Sear's coach, isn't good, but I think Mike Sear has a well-rounded game,
Mm,
and it's definitely more sport. And I think Mark has done MMA, he's done kickboxing, he's done a lot of different things. So he's definitely more of a brawler in that style. And the match didn't even go to the ground until gosh, like if I look at the time frame, about 4.5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a lot of stand up exchange. Mike sort of tries to go for, I think it was a trip,
It's
and
like an
then
like an outside trip or something, and it
and Mark just put
pockets
his weight down
reverses
correctly.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice at the end of that match too, which so the finish was obviously via leg lock. Both of those academies or both of those fighters are not. I don't see them as like leg locks being the main component of their game. I see, pressure passing and grinding and arm triangles and back takes and things like that. But I'm curious where Michael Sears' leg lock defense is currently. I know for a fact that Mark's leg locks have to have drastically improved since even this submission, spending all his time in Austin for the past quite a few months. So he's going to be a complete wild card when he returns to flow sub only competition as to what to expect from him. But I noticed Sear gave him quite a bit of time to set up that submission. Certainly a lot more than I would have expected. So I'm curious to see the evolution of Sear the next time we see him, which I do expect to be this next flow sub only open.
I think it's also I agree with everything you said, but I also think like when you're looking at the match, I think Mark has definitely more leg lock experience. Not like I think like you said, they're not leg lock specialists. And I think when you're looking at Mark passing, like he pressures in, he grabs the leg, falls back. I think it's the the immovable object, unstoppable force maybe, or I forget the analogy that I'm trying to use, but it's Mark knows just enough about leg locks, and Mike Sear knows just lack of enough leg
Right.
locks.
Yeah.
So that it was the perfect storm. I think if Mike had 6 months more of leg lock experience going with a lot of leg lock guys, he would have kind of been a little more proactive with that. Like when I got my brown belt and I started working leg locks, my timing and the way I would defend things was very rudimentary, and I was behind the times in terms of my timing because I didn't know what was going on. So it just seems like Mike, I think at that point was a relatively new brown belt. So I think if they had that rematch now, it would be a different story.
Yeah, I think it would be for both of them. These guys improve so drastically in such a short amount of time that who we see next could be a completely different person. Keep in mind also at the time that we're recording this, that match was almost a year ago. It was November of 24. So even at this point, they could have drastically different games. A year is a long time in jiu-jitsu time for improvement in any area. I'd like to see Sears guard a little more too, though. He's such a dominant stand-up person and really good from the top that I hope at some point we get to see a little more of his guard work and where that's at.
I agree.
All right, so what do you got next on your list?
The next on my list is Meg versus Bree.
Very nice.
Because I love that match and how diverse each of the competitors was. Bree competes a lot, but I feel like Bree is definitely more MMA, again, coming from the academy, a little more of a brawler, where Bree is more, I guess, a clean jiu-jitsu competitor, like does more just jiu-jitsu competitions. I don't think Meg's ever done MMA, to my knowledge.
No.
So just that approach to grappling, I think you can see. And they go back and forth. Like Bree's trying to pressure Meg a lot throughout the match. Bree, with her flexibility and her tenacity and just technique, gets out of all these submissions very sleekly. Bree also, gets the best of a couple takedown exchanges, tries to get Meg's back. Meg gets out of it, and then in overtime, Meg wins. In that exchange in the overtime control. So
it's tough. They're both. I love. Obviously I'm biased with Meg being one of my students, but I'm a huge fan of Bree Powers' jiu-jitsu, and she's a great human being also. But
super great.
She's so tough, as most, or if not all, of the students from the academy are, and her top game is really tough for Meg to deal with. Bree's Bree's probably one weight class, maybe 2 higher than Meg, depending on how small the brackets are. But Meg usually fights at 125, and I know Bree typically likes to be at like 145 ish. But they've had a lot of battles over the years.
And this match in particular was the absolute. So yeah, they were mixed weight classes in this bracket.
Yep.
And this was the finals. So this was the finals of that open, the Flow Sub Only Open 4. So anybody's trying to use Google or YouTube to look this up. Like Bree, her top pressure was great, but I think the perfect countermeasure to Bree's jiu-jitsu was Meg's slippery, technical, flexible jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And I think it was just the perfect anti-Bree game at the time. And Meg, I think, competes more in this format of sub-only with the overtime rules and things like that. So I think she's more versed in ride times, in the overtime rules and how to get out. So I think a lot of our guys face the same in our gym, face the same thing where, they go to the sub-only tournaments, they do great. But a lot of the times, if we don't work those overtime rounds leading up to it, like in a scenario of games, then, they just don't have the rounds to like, I need to get out of this back submission real quick or this armbar control.
There's an art to it for sure. It takes time to perfect that, just as much as it does to perfect some points-based rule set details about advantages or whatever that might be. So it's definitely Bree's also an MMA fighter too. So her top control is amazing. Her takedowns are amazing. But even with a takedown, Meg's guard is kind of where she likes to play from, and she has kind of a super flexible, open type of guard that she plays, and it works well for her. But yeah, great match for sure.
Great match, yeah.
So
what's your next match on the list?
Next on my list, I have the ever popular Mike Murray against Duncan Smith.
Oh, okay. So interesting.
That would have been, I believe, the first underground we did. And it was for the, at the time, it was for the 185 title, which we talked about on our last episode, is currently held by Brennan Kitchen. So this was we talked about in the beginning of this episode, the criteria being back and forth, or at least for me, I really like to see some back and forth and some high level jiu-jitsu. Murray won the match via straight ankle, but it was with about a minute left in the match. And I believe it was a 10-minute match when I watched it. Smith had some really good moments. He had some positions. He was in like a Kazakatami scarf hold type position where he was able to apply a lot of pressure, but that can be a tough spot to finish against a guy, especially a no-gi that really doesn't want to give up that inside arm. And Murray's sweeps and his escapes were excellent, as Smith's were as well. So just a great fun, all around match from two brown belts.
And when you think about the style, again, like I love to go back to style and like kind of getting people's into the perspective of where these guys are. Duncan and Mike are both MMA fighters, so they have that sort of brawling pressure. I think Mike Murray, I almost said Mike Smith. Mike Murray, I think competes a lot more in jiu-jitsu than Duncan does.
Yes.
And so Mike has a little more slicker jiu-jitsu, I think, given his, mat time compared to Duncan. Duncan's got some nice jiu-jitsu, but I think Mike definitely, can surprise him a lot more often. And when you look at the match, I think for a good 2/3 of it, Mike's on top.
Yes.
Yep. So Mike's got really good control on top because he knows jiu-jitsu is going to win this. It's not going to be that, just pressure. It's going to be pressure with that technical control. And I think Mike won that exchange of the control.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This one was also a fun matchup because we had two former 170-pound NEF champions. So if you look at the poster, this is it was from Underground 2. I said earlier the first Underground, but it was from Underground 2. So the poster we actually made had each of them holding their NEF belts, which was kind of cool, I thought.
That's cool.
All right. So what do you've got? What do you got for number 3?
My number 3 is Maxime versus Yadamarco.
Excellent.
Um, I think it's a great match. It was during the first Flow Sub Only on the ground, so this would have been a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Both are seasoned competitors coming from out of state, not local homegrown boys, kind of competing at a super high level. Like that underground was kind of the first where you saw a lot of local talent start to show up
Mm-hmm.
and really perform well. But we this was almost like a super fight within a super fight in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Because both these guys ran through a lot of the local talent in that day. And we sort of predicted, like, if you would have asked me, I would have said, I think Maxime and Yanamarco are going to the finals. And they did. And it was a great match. Not because our guys sucked in Maine, but because I didn't think at the time they were at that level. And I think now it would be a different story. But a lot of those guys are still training and competing at a higher level. But
Yeah. That for me, after Maxim's first couple events with us, he really started to break out externally in other, promotions. He's been on EBI a couple times. He's been on a lot of different shows, and he also fights professionally MMA. So, believe it or not, I actually do not have a Maxim match on my list, which is an indicator that how hard it is to narrow this down to 5 because I really loved his match against Yadi Marco, and I really loved his match against Pockets, which would have been just before that. So
yeah.
He's a super fun fighter. From way back in the squads tournament that we did, I can't remember who we had for a photographer, but within the same match, there's a takedown shot of Maxim taking down Pockets, and both bodies are literally in the air horizontally, which is impressive enough. But there's actually another shot from the same match where Pockets is taking down Maxim, and they're both horizontal in the air. So that was, that tells you what sort of match that looked like for sure.
Yeah, I think Yadamarco was a great addition over the years to a lot of the tournaments, both the open. Has he been to an open?
He hasn't been to an open, but
okay.
I would love to see that for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to see him do more than just a few matches, like do a weight class, then do the absolute. And it's interesting to be at a tournament and see like when there's a shark in the not a shark in the water, but more of the lion walking around. You know what I mean? That feeling of like I'll go to, I don't know if this translates well, but I'll go to certain camps, and there's a guy in the room that will wipe everybody else off the map. And you're like, all right. And he's just walking around choosing his roles, but he's wiping everybody off the floor, and he's getting good competitors competing with him. But when it comes to open roles, everybody knows he's the lion.
Yeah.
And I think if Yadamarco or Maxime came back, they'd kind of be that lion in the room. Or if Tackett came back and did an open, which I don't think he will because he's a superstar right now. But I hope he would.
Yeah.
But it's one of those the local grown homeboys have built up to this point.
Yes.
And they still know, Maxime and Yadamarco, man, they're still super tough.
Yeah, they have a head start, and they have they're not slowing down yet either. That's the thing is we've talked about before. You're a brown belt and you're improving, but you're not catching the guy in front of you because he's improving at the same rate. It can be tough.
Yep.
All right, so number 3 on my list, we had mentioned her already, but a different match I have listed here. I have from our most recent underground. I have Bree Power against Sarah Betancourt.
Oh, okay.
And this one actually surprised me a little bit, to be honest. What I saw from this match when I watched it in person, and then I watched it back this morning, is Sarah, don't get me wrong, Bree won the match in overtime via ride time. But Sarah played I felt like it was a fairly dominant regulation match from her. She played guard really well. She had some entries into some attacks.
Yeah, first takedown was beautiful.
Yep. And she just looked comfortable the whole time. Bree had her moments as well, but she definitely, Sarah's guard stifled Bree's passing a fair amount. Sarah played a really good guard game and was never really in danger much. And then, like you said, when it went to overtime, Bree was able to go on defense first, got out in a ballpark, maybe 20 seconds or so, and then was able to hang on to the back until the ref called it. But it was a great match for sure.
Yeah, I think, again, stylistically, backgrounds, Bree's MMA, Sarah, I don't think has had any MMA fights. So it's kind of a similar analogy to like Bree versus Meg of like more technical. I think Sarah has more mat time during jiu-jitsu tournaments than Bree. And she comes from Precision.
Yes.
Which is a very jiu-jitsu no-gi forward gym. So they probably know the overtime rules in and out.
Yes.
I think Sarah also came to that tournament with Willow. I think they were riding together. Or I think they're
so.
from the same gym.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, Willow's another high-level female competitor. I think Willow could do I think that could be a really good match with Willow and Bree. I think similar style, listically. When you're talking about like MMA versus jiu-jitsu, like Bree versus Willow or Sarah, I think similar styles there.
Yeah.
It's
I think
that was
Willow
a good
would be
match.
a wild card against just about anybody with her leg lock ability. If you watch her match that she had against Sky, she finished with a straight ankle lock, and in the post-fight interview, she's like, well, this is the first time I've ever done a straight ankle lock in competition. That was partially because the rule set for that particular match did not allow heel hooks. And
Gotcha.
There were a few pretty obvious heel hook entries. She just wasn't allowed to use them. So I would be curious to see her against some of the other ladies when in a match where all submissions are legal.
I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see that. Yeah, actually, it's funny. My next match is also a girls' match.
All right, what do you got?
Women's match. Sorry, women's match. My next match is On versus Meg.
That's what I have as well. So we'll talk about that one together.
Nice. Yeah. So this is at the Flow Sub Only Underground 4 about 6 months ago. It was the 135 champion match, kind of a super fight there, where like On's one of my teammates. So she comes from our gym, which is very much more gi forward, more points based. On has podiumed, if not won, tons of IBJJF worlds and Europeans in terms of like in the gi and no gi. So she's used to that points based system of control, progress, submit at the end of all of the progression of positions. And obviously Meg is more no-gi forward in her competition experience. The gyms that she comes with, she puts on a gi obviously, but I feel like the way I've seen her compete, she's more no-gi forward in her style.
She'll compete in the gi locally, but when it comes time to travel, to compete in like an IBJJF or something like that, it would just be no gi for sure.
Okay. And I think during this time, which was about 6 months ago, I'm looking at timelines here, I think Meg just got her brown belt, I think, before this match. And so,
yes.
And at the time, On has been a black belt for maybe a year. So On, I think, in a belt rank system was technically one belt rank above Meg. The match went back and forth. They both made their mistakes throughout the match, but super technical, a lot of moving, a lot of fun setups to watch. Meg, again, like uses her super flexible sort of Gumby jiu-jitsu to like get out of certain positions where you're like, oh, I think she's got her dead to rights, and then somehow Meg gets out.
Yeah.
So I think Meg does a lot of that in her things where it's kind of like Henry, where like you think you got him and he just somehow slips out by the nick of his teeth, and you're like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, her like hip mobility and inversion mobility is off the charts, and that's not
Yeah,
natural. It's something that she works really, really hard at.
and you can see in the match, in any match she does. I think that's a good. She's a good competitor to watch, and
Mm,
I think gave her the closest technical match I've seen Meg have so
yes.
far at the flow sub only. I think if On had, and this was also during a time where On was doing a couple other super fights, Nogi. So I think On was trying to really diversify her game, um, being a somewhat fresh black belt. And this is me assuming what she thinks. I haven't talked to her about this, but I'm guessing like it's, certain actions I would correlate to this conclusion would be she just took a super fight in NEF, a Nogi super fight, which was a grappling match in NEF. She's doing a lot more Nogi stuff, and she did this flow sub only match with Meg. So I feel like On was trying to diversify her game a little bit after getting the black belt to say, all right, I'm not just a gi person, I'm a Nogi person, submission only. I'm comfortable in all these formats. And she did do quite well. I think if she trained specifically this format for a little longer, I think it could have been, On might have won.
Mm. I mean, it was razor thin. There was not. I mean, it was more of a dominant performance in overtime, but it was
Mm-hmm.
razor thin in regulation. And one of the things that I was most impressed with from On, which I still talk about in our gym when I'm explaining things, is her standing cross step pass from
Mm-hmm.
like a standing versus seated guard or standing versus supine guard. Her cross step pass is so fast. It really gave Meg trouble multiple times, where she had to she either pass the guard or she was able to really make Meg work to try to get back to her guard for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's that's like a thing that we do in our gym all the time. That cross step pass,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just so good at it because she's like On's a little shorter, so her center of gravity is lower, her legs are shorter. So once she does, like, she has the timing done really well. So once she does step over, like the distance is already cut and she's already
Yes.
there, and
Yep.
it's so hard to recover anything as soon as that happens. And I've been on the other end of that so many times where I'm like, oh, she's passed. Like at this point, as she starts to step, I don't even try to recover my guard. I'm just trying to turn as fast as I can
Yeah.
to not give her my back
Yep.
because she's gonna get side control at that point because she's so fast at it. So I have to predict the next thing versus defend the thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I was surprised by from On was starting at about the 3.5 minute mark. She has a sequence for at least a minute, if not longer, where she's going after the legs. And
Yeah,
that's not something, when we're kind of preparing for the match, that's not something that I expected from her. I don't know if that was if there was a specific reason for that or if just something presented itself that she found interesting, but that was
honestly, it could be an interesting. Yeah, I'm watching it right now. Yeah, we don't work a lot of that stuff in the gym, so I think On definitely. Again, I think she was actively trying to diversify her game, um, by going no gi, by working more leg locks, by doing more submission only stuff. Things that we don't do in the gym very much.
mm,
And I think that she, obviously after that minute exchange, uh, Meg got on top, but she kept attacking and try to, there's a knee bar attempt, there's, all this stuff. So it just kept Meg on the defense during that time. And I think if On maybe trained more, if 6 months later On just worked legs, I think On could have kept going with that sequence.
mm, yeah. No, I think it's hard to like the outcome of this match. Meg was the winner, but honestly, as cliche as it sounds, the fans who are watching really are the winners in this one because
Mm,
it's great technical jiu-jitsu. If you're like a teenage girl or a girl with aspirations of competing, like I highly recommend checking this match out because it's a fun one and it ends up in a lot of different spots. You see leg entries, you see a lot of guard work, you see amazing passing,
mm.
you see submission attempts. So from top to bottom, it was hard for me to put this not at number one, but I have kind of a special one reserved for number one.
Right.
But one thing I did kind of feel with this match is because it was a 10-minute match plus overtime because it was for the championship. I feel like Meg was able to wear on down a little bit leading into overtime. With about 3 minutes left in the match, Meg started to kind of pour it on as far as attacking and control. I think with it looks like 3.5 minutes left on the clock, Meg's able to take On's back when she's in turtle and body triangle while On is in turtle. And I think she maintains the back the rest of the match.
Yeah, and I think that is stylistically the difference between somebody who works that rule set a lot more versus somebody who is just starting to diversify their jiu-jitsu overall. Like, On is who I'm saying doing more. She's doing more no-gi. She's doing more submission only, and so I think that's just the result of her not working those rule sets more. And again, I think if it's 6 months later, I think I'm not saying like On will win. I'm just saying I think it will be a different match. I think On will be getting out of more things and definitely being more dynamic there.
Yeah, I think this was billed as the women's 135 championship, which Meg has kind of been the forefront leader of that one. Meg does. Both of these ladies were undersized for it being a 135 championship. With On even more so than Meg, but Meg usually fights at 125, and then sometimes at 121 on certain things. So, but I believe On fights at even lower than that, maybe 115 or 110.
Yeah, On's pretty small.
Yeah, but
in the weight classes she chooses to compete in.
Yes, but great match. We'll make sure we have the links to all these matches in the description on Spotify, on the website and stuff like that. So you'll have access to all these guys if you wanna check them out.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Flow Sub Only YouTube channel while you're at it.
Yes, and that's constantly has more and more matches added. It's a
the video work over the last couple tournaments have been great.
Yep. I think you've done them all, haven't you?
There's some earlier ones like 3 years ago.
But you've definitely done all the undergrounds, right?
I've done all the undergrounds. Yep. I've done opens, most of the opens, I think.
Yeah. One of the early squads tournaments, we used an out of town company and brought in commentators and brought in light show people and everything. I feel like this underground vibe is the most fun. As far as it's a small area. There's people packed in there. The vibe's super fun. Makes for high quality video too.
I think it's a lot of fun. Actually, my number one match. You can go first, or I can go for whatever. I'm not sure who should go next for their number one, but it was during those the days of the light shows.
Yes. Yeah. I think I'll let you go. I have a feeling we may have the same match for number one. It's kind of far and away the highest level match, but I won't spoil it. So what do you got?
Kote versus Tackett.
Okay.
And because of, I think, the context of like Tackett obviously being a superstar now after CGI last year, I think you saw that potential in him during that match. I mean, Tackett won cleanly, but it was a great back and forth. And I think, I think it's a reason why it's the featured video. If you go to the underground, the Flow Sub Only YouTube page, I think it's the featured video there.
It's a phenomenal match because one, Tackett is nonstop action no matter what. But Kote has some of the best stand up and foot sweeps, and he has no quit either. And it's really some really, really good jiu-jitsu. But when you're dealing with someone like Tackett, it's tough, man. And I
Yeah.
think I think everybody's running into that problem now. It's not just not just Maxim. It's everybody. I don't recall the last time Tackett fell short in a match. You know.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's it's kind of like a movable object versus an unstoppable force
Mm,
in that match. Like Tackett is so relentless. Cote's got a really good guard, but it's just hard to stop Maxim sometimes.
yeah, super fun match. I, all this talk about Maxim makes me want to try to get him on another event very soon because he is really exciting to watch. So I got to do some work and try to make that happen.
Maybe that was my plan all along.
You know, a match I'd like to see a rematch on is it would be Cote versus Mark Jack 3 because they have
Yeah,
fought twice before.
I have.
And that's a match that I feel like I'd like to see post Kingsway Mark Jack versus Maxim
Mm,
and see where that is because Maxim has gotten the best of Mark twice now, but it's been very very close. And
mhm.
from memory, I believe it was overtime both times. So I feel like Mark with some new tools under his belt might be an interesting matchup for Maxim.
I think it'll be great. I think that's a good idea.
All right, so number one for me, I have Andrew Tackett versus Sean Yadi Marco.
Tackett down to Marco. I like that match.
Yeah, so it is the number one most viewed match on our YouTube channel,
Okay.
which that in itself tells you that people must like it. Um, the this was during the Squad 5 event, and this was the main event for the show.
Mhm.
Tackett, this is probably some of the most technical passing and technical guard play that and technical back control in overtime that you will see of any flow sub only match.
Mhm.
Tackett is very, very well known for his guard passing, as we all know, and the pace that he continues to pass the guard at forces the guard player to just be kind of on their heels constantly. Sean has a very, very difficult guard to pass, even at the highest levels. I think I said last episode I watched a 15-minute match, 10 or 15-minute match against David Garmo, and Garmo could not pass his guard.
Mhm.
And so we actually ran into the same thing in this one. I don't believe that Tackett was able to secure a clean guard pass on Sean. If he did, it was just momentarily, and Sean was able to recover. Sean had a very, very deep knee bar at some point, maybe halfway ish into this match. And I remember when it happened, being on the sidelines watching, and I was like, "Oh my goodness! If he gets this sub right now, this is a huge upset." Um,
Mm.
you know, like any high level professional, the damage has to be catastrophic for you to tap when you're at a level like Tackett's is. So he was able to escape the knee bar, but it was super tight. It was we actually after the event we all went to dinner, and Tackett and Yadi Marco, we were all there together. So it's kind of interesting to hear
Hmm.
directly from them, while we're all hanging out, like thoughts on the match. And Tackett was like, yeah, that knee bar was tight, man. I was in a lot of trouble. Um, the that went full regulation, and then it went all three overtimes, and I believe Tackett had full 2 minutes of ride time on all three overtimes. So
Okay.
Yadi Marco was very similar, where he had very, very lengthy back control exchanges. So just a super technical match all the way around. If you have not watched it, it's almost 20 minutes of jiu-jitsu and at the highest level. So I definitely recommend watching that one.
It's been a while since I've watched that one.
Yeah, so that was what date was that? Would have been Squads 5, April 2023. So we're
Mm.
talking 2.5 years ago,
Mhm.
but just a super fun match to kind of finish off that event. That was a Squads 5 event that had the Academy, Flow, and Homa BJJ as the three squads team.
Yeah, I think you know it's interesting. I was thinking about the whole squads format and how if we were to do it again this year or at some point soon, it would be completely different teams in representation
Mm,
doing really well. Like before, the academy made sense. Like Flow made sense. Like all the teams that were there made sense for the time. But now, you know, like Alexi's has a bunch of no-gi competitors, and you know, you have some out-of-state gyms that might come up,
mm-hmm.
and um, yeah, maybe Titan has a team now.
Right. I feel like your and I've thought this for a while. I feel like your academy would be positioned really well for a squads tournament.
Yeah,
With the people that you have that are currently training, I think you would have a team that definitely would would make some noise, especially against other, Maine and New Hampshire teams.
mm, I think so. I definitely think so. And I think that's why having, you know, I know the open formats and the the underground formats have been great, but I do think that if you were to like go in and do another squads, that could be a lot of fun.
I agree. I think getting enough teams buy in to do it is the hardest part of the
Hmm.
squads. The moment that I have enough interest, it's it's a super fun fan experience when you got 20 guys from your gym that want to go spectate because they have a team of 5 people all from their academy fighting. It kind of builds excitement for the whole team. Whereas if it's just one
Yeah,
person doing a super fight, you may or may not go watch, But if your team is represented, a lot more people tend to want to make sure they don't miss that.
yeah. I mean, honestly, the like I can almost see like having a squads secondary thing during an open because you have so many people at an open and you have the amount of mat space. So it's not like you're doing one match at a time. You can do the academy versus whatever team over there, and you can have these two teams over here, and you just have the
Mm,
amount of space that can accommodate
yeah,
you know the multiple teams there, and it's already an open format, so they can do their weight class if they want to, and then later on do a teams format.
yeah. No, I agree. I think I do this most recent CJI too, where they did the quintet style format. Um, I didn't love the mix and match, and I don't love the double elimination rules because I felt like it led to some inactivity. But I did like the breakdown of the weight classes. I felt like it was kind of
Mm,
simplified things where you had 66, 77, 88, 99. And that way you could kind of, the weight divisions were like 22 or 24 pounds different.
mm,
So you really
yeah,
had no excuse not to have a slot filled.
right.
In the past, we've done a squads tournament of 3, with one of them being a female, and then we did a squads tournament of 5 with 3 males and 2 females. I think both of those are good options. The hardest part in gathering teams when I had reached out to different people was finding the female from the academy that not the academy but from any academy that wanted to compete. Some gyms just don't have high level girls that want to compete, which is understandable.
Hmm. Yeah. Some don't, some do, or some have girls and guys that are like kind of right on the cusp of wanting to compete, and maybe they just need that push to be like, all right, like if this is coming up in 2 months, now this is my opportunity to then push myself in those 2 months to then get to that level potentially to help the team.
And to say, hey, our team needs you to fill this spot, and now you got four
Yeah.
four other people trying to talk you into it.
Peer pressure, man.
Yeah.
Peer pressure is a thing, and I tell you know the two things I think that well, three obviously, but I think the three things that get people to compete, number one is themselves. That's the obvious one.
Mm.
Number two, peer pressure. I think people are like, yeah, man, I'm doing it, you should do it, and like pressure, 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 and they're like, all right, fine, we'll do it. And then number three, maybe their coach is like, hey, I will support you the whole way. So
Yes.
like, let's go. Like, I'll be there for you to coach, to prepare, to warm you up, things like that. Like you have the team behind you. So usually that's part of that hesitation sometimes to compete is, people don't have that support system. Sometimes they go to tournaments by themselves, and some people thrive in that format of being by themselves and competing. But
Yeah.
some people want that support system, and I get it. So
Yeah, there are some people who Sean Yadimarco is one of them. I've seen him in a lot of times at like an IBJJF in like New York or Boston or something. Just there by himself, just slap hands and go,
yeah, no one knows who he is except for maybe 10 people in the room, and those 10 people are like, "Oh, he's gonna win. Cool."
Yep, exactly. So, but there are competitors that seemingly prefer it that way too, But then there's also people who perform much better when their coach is there, whether it's the in-match strategy or just managing, nerves and adrenaline or whatever it might be. Everyone's different, so
I agree.
I also feel like Black Bear's team would be an interesting entry into squads this time.
Yeah.
Mike Murray has kind of gotten a lot of guys excited about competing from that academy. So I think if they had the right people interested, that could be another potential entry.
It could be a lot of fun. Yeah, they're having some tough guys right now.
Yeah, they've had someone recently who challenged Sear, I believe, for a title. So I know they have a bigger guy, and then obviously Mike is a good 185 range and probably could move up or down slightly if needed. I know they've got Jack Dorval, I believe it is, who just recently won gold at white belt IBJJF and was promoted to blue belt. So
on
he's
the podium.
Yep, he's a tough competitor too, up and coming. So I think that might be a fun entry if they have the people to round out the rest of the slots.
I think so. I think Blackbeard's got a real solid team. Shout out to those guys for really improving. Because honestly, like I think, and maybe it's Mike Murray who did most of that lifting. I know their coach is really good too, but like when Mike Murray came up to Maine, like I knew Blackbeard existed. They weren't on my radar in a lot of ways. Like, and not that I'm trying to trash talk. It's just
Right.
It's not a gym I've cross trained at a lot. It's not a gym that I've seen at tournaments. It's not a gym that I hear a lot about. And so when I start to hear them compete more and go to IBJJF and winning, and Mike Murray, obviously I've known him before he moved to Maine. So him representing Black Bear, like that sort of started leveling up that gym more. And it's kind of fun to see them, get better and better.
I agree. I think he's really helped push especially the no-gi side of things and the competition side of things, because competition's not for everybody. And a lot of gyms lean one way or the other, either towards competition or towards self-defense or just purely being a hobbyist type school. And there's nothing wrong with any of those three things, because all of those are very important to different types of people's growth in jiu-jitsu. But I think Mike has definitely stepped up the competition side of that school, or at least people's desire to compete.
Yeah, I love it.
And finishing out the podcast for today's episode, we're actually going to hit just about the 1 hour mark like we planned, as opposed to the last episode that was an hour plan but ended up 2. I'm going to announce not necessarily our next episode, but our first guest appearance for Flow Sub Only, who we just finished talking about. Our first competitive guest for the podcast is going to be none other than Mike Murray himself.
Go Mike. I didn't know that. Nice.
Yes. So spoke with him a few days ago, and we're going to make it happen one of these days coming up. And not promising it'll be our next episode. Depends when we can get all three of our schedules aligned. But it will be one of the next probably 2 or 3 episodes coming up. We're going to have him on the show. And
that'd be a lot of fun.
Hear his path through jiu-jitsu and his thoughts on competition, and maybe he can tell us what was going through his mind when he used the teal and pink rainbow colored tearaway pants just before his match.
I'm not sure if there was much going through his mind, but yeah.
What a fun competitor, though. Like he definitely plays to the crowd. Likes to be flashy and exciting, and that's what we want. Honestly, I mean, yes, winning is important, but to a certain extent, if you wanna have people follow you and you want to have people watch you and you want to get to a high level, you got to build excitement, you got to build a following, and you got to have very, very good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mike is also doing a lot of commentating live at NEF events after being an NEF fighter, in the years past. So yes. I think he's kind of found himself in a good niche with jiu-jitsu, being an entertainer, being a good commentator. Yeah, just like sharing his knowledge, having fun. Like his videos have been, his meme videos of jiu-jitsu have been like my friends from the other side of the country are sharing them. Not knowing that, like, oh, hey, that's Mike. Like, cool.
So there's a picture that you're probably super familiar with of Mike and your teammate Tristan Shields. And Tristan's in like a diamond type position, and Mike had picked him up off the mat, and they were like face to face in the air, and they both kind of like are smiling at each other. And so I believe you had taken that photo, and I sent it to Mike, and I'm like, Mike, here you go. I'm going to give you this photo to make memes with, but you need to collab with Flow Sub Only, and you need to keep it moderately clean. And he's like, okay, I'll do my best. But
that's so funny.
That's a great shot.
That's the second time I have, man, I forget what the photo was. I bet if I look back, Tom DeBlas actually reshared this. This was like years and years, like maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. There was this funny photo that somebody took from one of my tournaments that I shot and turned it into a jiu-jitsu meme. I think somewhat, because a lot of the times people are comparing no-gi jiu-jitsu to a very gay thing. Mm-hmm. And so that was part of the meme at the time. And I think Tom shared it and like had a comment, and then I just commented down. I'm like, way to make my photo an awesome meme. And he goes, oh, that's awesome that you took this. Like, yeah.
That's great. Well, if Tom shares it, odds are there's a lot of people are gonna see it. So that's cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was like, oh shoot, Tom DeBlas shared it. All right, that's awesome. Big.
All right, sir. Why don't you remind everybody where they can keep track of you and follow you, and then we'll round things out.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ben Moore. Again, not too dissimilar to the paint company, but if you want to find me online, I'm Active Beer Geek on every platform: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Mostly on Instagram. I'm a photographer, videographer, content creator there. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Excellent. And you guys can find me on Instagram at prof_Hayden BJJ, or you can follow or subscribe to our Flow Sub Only YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@FlowSubOnly. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel and our Spotify podcast, please support what we're trying to do here and go subscribe to those. And do all these competitors a favor too, and search them out and give them a follow if you're not already following them, because that definitely helps them in their path and what they're trying to accomplish and the show that they're putting on to entertain all of us.
Yeah, we're not just Caesar being like, "Are you entertained?" Like,
we are
entertaining us. Yes, they're very entertained. They're doing a great job. So yeah, give them a follow. Everybody we mentioned today. So.
All right, Ben, I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.
All right.